Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about Lilith and more specifically the Black Moon Lilith. And as far as what it represents in astrology, well, the Black Moon Lilith can be a really strong negative manifestation of the sign and the house that it occupies. Also, it's not a physical body, it's a mathematical point. It's the point in the orbit of the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth. But just because it's a mathematical point and it's not a physical body doesn't mean that it doesn't have significance in the chart. Keep in mind that the North Node is not a physical body, and it can have a very strong and immense impact on one's horoscope. So also the Black Moon Lilith can be associated with uninhibited sexual energy. It also can, even in a very strong negative manifestation or expression, it could indicate nefarious behavior connected with the sign and the house that it occupies. It can be seen as the dark side of that particular sign and the house that it resides in. And keep in mind, also, the sign that it's in could represent somebody that could be, it can be adversarial. It can represent somebody that could be a very formidable enemy or adversary. It could be somebody that has, say, the sun, moon, or ascendant in that particular sign that you have the Black Moon Lilith in, or it could simply be somebody that embodies those characteristics. Now, it's also important to keep in mind, as far as the Black Moon Lilith placement, well, it can be stronger, I believe, like a planet if it's in an angular house, say if it's in the 1st, 4th, 7th, or 10th house in a natal chart. And in my case, I have the Black Moon Lilith in the 4th house, of course, an angular house. I have it in the zodiac sign Leo, and I also have it at that dreaded 22nd degree, which is also, it's a critical degree for fixed signs. And I also have it conjunct my Venus, and it falls in a long fixed T-square configuration in my natal chart. So this takes on a lot of emphasis. If it's involved in a configuration, if it conjuncts a certain planet in your horoscope or your ascendant, midheaven, it will take, very likely will take on more emphasis, more focus, and more significance if it isn't. So, also, the Black Moon Lilith, it is in its detriment when it's in the zodiac sign Cancer, and in its dignity when it's in the zodiac sign Capricorn. Now, mine also takes on extra significance and importance because it is in the 4th house, which would be seen as its accidental detriment. So, and the thing, for example, like let's take my chart for example, the Black Moon Lilith in the Leo in the 4th house. Well, that could indicate something connected with maybe me being seen. Maybe it's very domineering in the home, or what this could represent too is that, being that it's Leo in the 4th house, well, it could also indicate that there might be the fear. See, the Black Moon Lilith can be about what puts us in a very strong state of trepidation. And in my case, having the Black Moon Lilith and Leo in the 4th, it could be something that I am exceptionally fearful of, such as losing that ability to be dominant, which is Leo, in the home. If somebody, let's say, had their Black Moon Lilith in Capricorn in the 4th, well, it could be something connected with losing their ability perhaps to have, they're being serious in matters connected with their home life, and being unwell, and really the stated trepidation. It could be, for example, somebody that has business in their home. It could be somebody that might be afraid they might lose their business in their home, and being able to be that authority person in that home. So that would be another example. Now, also, the fact that I'll take my example again in my own chart, Black Moon Lilith in Leo in the 4th house. Well, keep in mind that the zodiac sign that is associated with your Black Moon Lilith, that could be somebody, represent a person that could be at least somewhat adversarial. And it's interesting that it was a prominent family member that I felt was kind of a love-hate relationship, that actually had his Leo sun at 22 or 23 degrees, depending on his time of birth. I didn't know his time of birth, and my Black Moon Lilith is at 22 degrees Leo. Now, take another example that you talk about the Black Moon Lilith, and its worst negative manifestation could indicate nefarious actions or activity in association with the sign and the house that it's in. Now, I have a friend who has the Black Moon Lilith in Sagittarius in his 5th house at that dreaded 22nd degree. Imagine that. And anyway, he had a child, unfortunately, succumb to death. I mean, he was kind of adventurous in the love department, if you know what I mean. And sadly, he got involved with a woman that was underage. He had sex with a minor, got her impregnated. She had one kid with him. At the time, I think she was like 16 years old. That woman that he had that child with wound up shaking another child of his to death. And I mean, it just shows you that you can really, in the worst expression and manifestation of the Black Moon Lilith, you can have really some very strong negative activity connected with it. Black Moon Lilith can also be very disruptive, I believe. I think its influence is very similar to Pluto. Pluto is a little bit more transforming, I think, and it's more about rebirth and regeneration connected with it. Pluto can obliterate and destroy, but there's a little bit more rebirth following that. Now, the Black Moon Lilith, I think, is a little bit more negative in its manifestation, but you still can embrace a higher quality with it if you're willing to do so. Like in my case, Black Moon Lilith in Leo in the 4th house. Well, in as far as me, I might, in the negative side, at least by perception of others, maybe I was seen as somewhat domineering in the home, and maybe I was seen as a home wrecker by someone, and it could even indicate some ostracism from family members, maybe because at least the perception of me may be that I was exhibiting some negative, very strong negative Leo characteristics, such as maybe arrogant or bombastic. I may not see that in myself, but that could have been the perception of some of those family members. Now, another thing, but as far as embracing the higher point, it could indicate someone that could get some notoriety and some recognition, or doing something connected with entertainment, perhaps from the home. So those are some things to look at as far as this goes. And another example, what's interesting, a woman that was prominent in my life a number of years ago has the Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio in the 4th house. And she had endured a little sexual abuse, sadly, from somebody, from a family member. And I thought that, I mean, that could epitomize one of the worst case scenarios, of course, of having that placement. But anyway, but if you have, say, the Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio in the 4th house, that doesn't mean that's going to happen to you. But in really worse, very bad, or negative, extreme cases, it could be. What's interesting, too, is to look at the Black Moon Lilith in terms of synastry. Now, let's say, for example, somebody has the Black Moon Lilith in their horoscope, and it conjuncts another person's ascendant. Well, this could indicate a very strong, uninhibited sexual attraction, perhaps, in the Black Moon Lilith person. Might be very mesmerized and captivated by the ascendant person. Keep in mind the ascendant governs the appearance in the physical body. So this is really a very strong physical attraction, maybe superficial to some degree because it's going more by outward appearances, but still a very intense attraction perhaps nonetheless. Now, what's interesting too is that that same person who told you about with the Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio in her 4th house, she had her Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio in my 6th house. So it's interesting to look at where these placements fall in your house from someone else. And what was interesting is that this person, I guess, using the real strong power, control, manipulation connected with Black Moon Lilith and Scorpio, she was trying to really show this strong power over my health. It may have been done to be beneficial, but still she said she had threatened the store, was going to threaten the storekeepers not to sell me any more soda or anything with strong amount of caffeine in it. And I thought that was interesting. I think that was a classic example of that connection, her having her Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio fall into my 6th house. But on the positive side, somebody that has a Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio, well, they could embrace that higher power by doing things productive that are associated with the sign Scorpio, such as doing things connected with investigation, forensics, getting to the bottom of things, being able to decipher others' motives and intentions, and even things with astrology. And she became very proficient in astrology, I might add, this person, at least at that time. So those are some things to look at as far as this Black Moon Lilith goes. And the thing about it is it might give a very distorted negative manifestation in connection with that sign and house it occupies, but it doesn't mean it's all gloom and doom. If you're willing to understand, looking at the positive attributes associated with that zodiac sign and house, and willing to evolve through that and use that to the best expression possible. Keep in mind, if your Black Moon Lilith makes up predominantly negative or adverse aspects, then you might be strongly using a lot of the negative with it. But if it makes a lot of or predominantly positive aspects, then it won't necessarily eradicate that negative influence of the Black Moon Lilith, but it can very well modify it, and you might experience the negative connected with it to a little less intensity. So basically, that is basically what I'm talking about as far as Black Moon Lilith goes. And anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Black Moon Lilith. And stay tuned next time where I will be talking about Black Moon Lilith in Aries. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone, because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.